It's harvest time and it's fall, and I love recipes that connect with this time of year, especially with workers in the field, and that is what this recipe is. Farmers of 250 years ago, whether they're in Great Britain or North America, don't have anything like the machinery that farmers do today. And especially at harvest time, you would need many workers to come in from other areas to help you harvest. And feeding those workers was an important part of the day. Recipes that work in this situation aren't always easy to come by. William Ellis, in his Housewife's Family Companion of 1750, talks about feeding these workers, and he comes up with all kinds of recipes for that. And this recipe is one of those. He speaks to it right at the bottom of the recipe. This is called a bacon pasty. Now, he has two different kinds. He has one where you boil it, which kind of turns into, say, a bacon ravioli maybe? It's the closest thing I can think of. And then he also has a pasty that is baked. But he doesn't bake these in a regular pie crust, which is what I thought he was going to do. And that's what he does in the boiled pasty recipe. He makes just regular pie crust, which doesn't boil up all that well. It isn't great. But in this baking version, where you bake them in the oven, he actually uses bread dough, which I thought was really fun. So this recipe is ultra simple to do. But in the time period, this was really meant to kind of feed the lowest of the low, or the inexpensive farm workers. Planning and preparing these meals for the workers was a very important part of the work on the farm. And making them so that they would work for the field workers isn't easy to do. So sometimes these field workers are out in the field when they're going to eat lunch, which lunch is sometimes the most important meal of the day. And they want something good, and they want something filling, and they need something that they can eat on the go. So they would make these really simple little apple pies, basically a little apple turnover that you could just carry in your hand. And this recipe works in the same way. These bake up, and you don't need any utensils. You can just eat them with your fingers, and if you need to, you could carry 4 or 5 of these out in the field with you, or to have them delivered to you out in the field. You'd be able to eat these up and keep working. Here's William Ellis's recipe. It says, little bacon pasties to bake for a farmer's family. Make these bacon pasties with bread dough out of the same kneading kiver wherein the dough is kneaded for household bread, in the very same manner as the boiled bacon pasties are done. Then prick them and set them in with common oven cakes. About a half an hour bakes them at the oven's mouth before the oven is stopped up for good with the bread. These pasties are made by some laborers and farmers' wives for the sake of their readiness, cheapness, and goodness. For as the gravy of the bacon is here entirely kept within the paste, with the juice of the herbs, and the mixture of them all renders these pasties a pleasant, wholesome, and satiating victuals, and serves for a delightful change of diet amongst children and servants in particular. So he refers to this idea of an earlier recipe where they boil them. And the thing to know here is we're taking little pieces of bacon and we're mixing them with some herbs, specifically parsley and thyme, maybe some salt and pepper. We're putting them in this bread dough and we're baking them. He does make reference that we could put some other things in this if we want to. You could have some root vegetables or other things. Now, basically, he's giving us license to put whatever we want in here. And in this case, you can definitely spice these up. Now, remember, the originals here are meant for laborers and farmers' wives with itinerant workers or whatever. So they're meant to be inexpensive. But of course, we can change that. We can put expensive spices in there, spice mixes, or other ingredients. And really, we can do some amazing things with this little recipe. In keeping with the idea that this is a very inexpensive recipe, I have used whole wheat flour for our bread dough. This is so simple. It is just flour and water and salt and yeast. I've made bread multiple times on the channel, so you can go back and check that out. This bread dough has been sitting around for a couple of hours, so it's going to be just perfect to use. And I'm just going to break off a little section here, about the size of a turkey's egg. We're going to flatten this out as thin as possible and place within it bacon. Now, in his recipe, he calls for bacon to be very thinly cut. So our regular bacon is perfect to use in this circumstance. I've cut it up into fairly small chunks here. Depending on how big you want to make these, you can use a couple or just a single piece. I like making these pretty small. That way we can use them in a couple of different ways. So I've got just a piece of dough here, and I'm going to flatten that out and place a piece of bacon in the very center of it. Now I have some salt and pepper. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of both of those on top of that, and I'm going to add in a bit of chopped parsley and chopped thyme as per the recipe. This is so simple. We're going to fold this over and make a flat little packet of it, and then it's ready to put on the baking sheet to be put in the oven. We're just going to make up a half a dozen of these and see how they turn out. When our baking sheet is full, these go into the oven at 350 degrees. I'm going to bake these, and again, these are fairly small, so bake them about 25 to 30 minutes. You'll probably know when they start to smell good. But again, we're cooking bacon, so we do want it to be in there quite a while. They are out of the oven and they cooled off, but they're still warm and they smell tremendous. Not only do you get the fresh bread smell, but then we have the bacon smell and the herbs all together. This is just really, really smells great. You could use some other meats in here very, very easily. You might even want to pre-cook your bacon just a little bit before you put it in these if you're worried about how long you need to bake them, etc. They would also be good with ham or any other interesting cuts of meat. This just really is something we could experiment with a lot. Let's try one of these out. And again, these are perfect. You can carry them along. They're not greasy or anything. Just a perfect food that you could send out to the workers in the field. This has all the flavors we're expecting. It has that wonderful ham flavor, lots of salt and pepper and those spices. We get it all in such a nice, tight, easy package. It's fascinating to look into the books in this time period where they're really trying to figure out how to deal with farms, how to deal with farm workers, how to feed poor people. We have a lot of things going on. And really, this is the time for that self-help and learning literature. There's a bunch of this happening in the late 18th century and early 19th century. So fascinating. And this recipe, so very easy and great.